Welcome back to Chalk It Up Sports, where no matter if we win or if we lose, we just got to charge it to the game. I'm your guy, DeShields II. I appreciate you guys being here. Smash that like button. Make sure you guys continue to comment below. Stay for a long time. Make sure you're here for a good time, and the vibes will always be electric. Now, let's get into the nitty-gritty here. Ever since Jonathan Gannon has left, people have been making it a point to point out his deficiencies. As a matter of fact, while he was here, you had a lot of people pointing out his deficiencies as a defensive coordinator. Fans, other media people, even players of Eagles past have come out the woodworks, essentially ripping Jonathan Gannon's style of defense. Now, most recently, Brian Dawkins and Seth Joyner, two Philadelphia Eagles Hall of Famers. Brian Dawkins is an NFL Hall of Famer, but two legendary Philadelphia Eagles in Brian Dawkins and Seth Joyner have both come out and said that they were never fans of Jonathan Gannon's scheme, and they probably most likely wouldn't have thrived in it. Brian Dawkins, to be exact, he said, as for me, playing under this defensive coordinator, me personally, I would have hated it, because none of the things that I was blessed to do, blitzing, would have been added to this defense under Gannon. He took advantage of the personnel that the front office gave him, got a lot of dudes that can win one-on-one battles, and so he put those guys in position to have that success through the year. The only thing that I kept saying all year is that when your fastball is not working, you have to have a changeup, and you have to be used to throwing that change. End quote. Brian Dawkins brings up some good points. You know, at the end of the day, Jonathan Gannon lived and died by his system, and his system was more so predicated on players, smart players at that, making big-time plays. And when the big plays stop on defense, then the defense kind of gets exposed, especially when you're going up against a top-tier quarterback and top-tier wide receivers. Look, the reality is the NFL is a passing league. The NFL is an offense-first league at this point. There used to be a time where defense ruled the day. There used to be a moment where good defense beat good offense any day of the week. Now it's reversed. Good offense beats good defense 9 times out of 10 these days. And that's just the reality. And a lot of these defensive coordinators, they're afraid to get beat over the top. They're honestly terrified to allow a quarterback to beat them over the top. They're terrified to let a wide receiver beat them over the top. The name of the game right now in the NFL is limit explosive plays and win the turnover battle. That's what it's about in the NFL. Win explosive plays, limit the turnover battle. And that's kind of what the Philadelphia Eagles offense and defense was predicated on. Getting explosive plays and creating and or limiting turnovers, right? So when you put all those variables into perspective, it's no question why guys are afraid to get beat over the top. Most of the talent is at the wide receiver position these days. You know what I'm saying? But you still have to have some level of aggression in your play calling, some timely aggression. I completely understand where Brian Dawkins is coming from. I even understand where Seth Joyner is coming from, right? There has to be some level of aggression in the play calling, and you haven't really seen that. For the most part, the Eagles were in 4-man fronts, allowing their pass rushers to win their matchups, and they did just that. And the defense kind of got exposed in the Super Bowl. Granted, the field was a mess, but both teams had to play on the field. We're not going to make excuses for anybody when it comes to the field. The reality is both teams had to play on it. The Chiefs responded better to it. The Eagles did not. And the Eagles got home a lot with their 4-man pass rush throughout the season. They had a lot of 5-man fronts as well when it came to defending the run. But when it came to pass rushing, they really have relied heavily on their 4-man front and didn't really blitz that much. But they technically did blitz more than they did in Jonathan Gannon's first season with the Philadelphia Eagles. But Gannon isn't here anymore. And I'm pretty sure he's going to take that mentality to the Arizona Cardinals. You know, that bend but don't break style of defense, and which permeates through the entire NFL that I'm not a fan of. Another philosophy about Jonathan Gannon that I think a lot of people really didn't like was the fact that he allowed his DBs to play so far off the ball. And that allowed for quarterbacks to feast and keep their completion percentage high and just dink and dunk you to death, right? And when you're going up against a top-tier quarterback in Patrick Mahomes, he's going to expose that. And if your defense isn't making plays, if the defense isn't forcing turnovers, then your defensive philosophy, your defensive concepts sort of become obsolete. But again, you know, a lot of people never was a fan of Jonathan Gannon from the beginning. Me personally, I've always been hot and cold with Jonathan Gannon. I've loved him and I've hated him. I've hated him, then I loved him. You know what I mean? So Jonathan Gannon, he gets to take his talents to the Arizona Cardinals, which is completely fine. I didn't like how he left Philadelphia. I kind of felt like he just, snuck out the back door like a thief in the night and didn't really face the music like he was supposed to face. But it is what it is, man. He got the opportunity to move on. But we got to keep in mind, once again, whoever the Eagles do bring in to be the defensive coordinator, 9 times out of 10, I believe the Eagles want to try to maintain a semblance of what Jonathan Gannon did. Now, does that mean that they're just going to go off the deep end and just not change their defense at all? No. Does it mean they're going to go off the other deep end and just start blitzing out of nowhere? No. I think the Eagles still want to maintain a semblance of what Jonathan Gannon did because the personnel was kind of brought in around that. Most of the personnel that was brought in was meant to play in that style of defense. So whoever does come in is probably going to play defense similar to Jonathan Gannon, but what I would expect a difference in philosophy in terms of how your DBs play the wide receivers and how far off the line of scrimmage they are, and what's the balance between man and zone and so on and so forth. And like I said before, man, you can't get mad at these defenses for being afraid to get beat over the top. You can't get mad at it because, like I said, most of the talent these days are at the wide receiver position. All these kids that's coming up these days, out of Pee-wee football and coming out of college and also the high school ranks, all these kids want to be wide receivers. Back in the day, you had a lot more of these talented young bloods being running backs, but now most of the talent is being taken from the running back position and being moved to the wide receiver position because the kids see that's where the money is. Your body lasts longer in the league. You don't get hit as much. You get the most notoriety. We're seeing these wide receiver contracts going higher and higher with AJ Brown and guys like Chris Godwin and DeAndre Hopkins and Christian Kirk, Tyreek Hill. All those guys of that ilk. You're seeing the wide receiver contracts going crazy. Devontae Adams, you know what I mean? So these young kids, they don't want to play running back anymore. They don't want to run through the trenches. They want to be wide receivers. Guys like DK Metcalf, guys like AJ Brown, who are such physical specimens at that position, they probably would have been running backs back in the day, right? But regardless, you're seeing the wide receivers so much more talented these days. Their ability to make plays after the catch is at an all-time high right now. And defenses are just scared of that. They don't want to get beat over the top. They're trying to limit all explosive plays. So I understand the balance that the defensive coordinator has to play. You want to try to keep everything in front of you, but you also don't want to be too passive. And I think that's going to be the balancing act that the future DC for the Philadelphia Eagles is going to have to figure out. How will I deploy the personnel that I do have? Will I play more zone? Will I play more man? What's my situational play calling going to be like, so on and so forth. So look, Jonathan Gannon, he provided what he provided. If you look at the numbers, he was very successful in Philadelphia, but I feel like the story goes further beyond the numbers. But again, congratulations to Gannon being with the Arizona Cardinals. The Eagles defense relatively was successful last year, but you got to ask yourself, did they get fat off of mediocre quarterbacks? I know I touched on a lot in this video, but I'm curious to know what you guys think about guys like Brian Dawkins and Seth Joyner kind of ripping Jonathan Gannon's style of defense. Also, how do you guys feel about the future defensive coordinator coming in? Is it going to be a balancing act, right? More zone, more man, more blitzing, less blitzing, so on and so forth. And also, who do you guys think the Eagles are going to bring back to kind of maintain the continuity on defense? Because you don't want to go too far off the deep end where your entire defense has new faces. So again, comment below, smash that like button. I really appreciate all the love and support you guys have provided to Chalk It Up Sports. It means a lot to me. You guys were locked in. I'm your guy, DeShields II. Make sure you guys stay humble, stay healthy, and most importantly, stay hungry. Peace out, y'all.